Broadcasting from the World Conference Center in Bonn, Germany, Solutions Review is on location at the FME User Conference 2023, the peak of data integration. Brought to you by Safe Software and Terra.
Hey, it's Doug Atkinson, and we are back here in Bonn, Germany at the peak of data integration event. And we are joined by a couple of folks from Lafayette, Louisiana, who've traveled all the way to Bonn, Germany to be with us. And that is Jean-Paul Stafford from T. Baker Smith and Chad Kimble from T. Baker Smith. Gentlemen, thanks for being with us.
Yes, thank you for having us.
Well, so we were talking just a little bit before we fired up the interview. And really, I think what's so fascinating about what you guys are doing is T. Baker Smith has been around for some time, yes?
Correct. 110 plus years.
110 plus years.
Yep.
And it's really been in kind of the traditional, started out as a very traditional analog business. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Correct.
And now you're layering on FME, or have been layering on FME for some time now. I mean, pick up that story where we were just spooling it out prior to firing up the cameras, because it was great.
Yeah. Okay. So back in 2010. We're looking for a conversion to shape to KML, right? And we didn't want to build anything if we didn't have to, just because maintenance, upgrades, everything else. Just you kind of want to avoid that if you can, right? And so we searched for that particular shape to KML and came across Safe, an FME product, and piqued curiosity, and it was just kind of like the lights went off. It was like
yeah.
And after that, we started using it very heavily. So we wanted to take it to the next step, and it was like, how can we automate this? And what can we do to have these processes run in the background whenever we want without having to manually do them through Workbench, now Forms, right? Mm-hmm. And so then in 2011, we went ahead and had an instance of Server. So at that time, Server was extremely brand new, but it was awesome for us, because we could then put our processes up and basically run them anytime we wanted to, and users could go and run them. So from there, you keep going down the chain. We're like, okay, so we can do all this cool geospatial stuff. This is great. How do we integrate it with our business applications? So not only are we using FME nowadays as far as from a geospatial standpoint, we're using it for our internal applications.
Oh, interesting.
So it's an awesome thing for us, because the time it used to take to develop these integrations and everything else, it took a long time. Now it's fast. And if we want to go ahead and swap out a couple transformers or readers or writers here and there, it's quick. And we know what's going to be the end result.
Yeah, see, this is, I was mentioning that, as Solutions Review, we cover a lot of technologies, some of which are relatively new. And by relatively new, I mean less than a decade old. And sometimes you lose your perspective about, what a real business that's been around for a while is doing and evolving and staying out in front.
Correct.
And I think, I think this is one of the great stories of how you take a business that has, been around a long while and now layering this technology on top of it to really stay in that competitive position.
Right. To touch on using FME, bringing us into reality in the future. We the first big project that we did was with data processing, so it was all done manually before. So once we had FME Server and we built these processes, we can process this data fast, and everything is more like standardized as well. So it really was a big time saver, and time is money. So it was a big step forward for us.
Yeah. Well, and I think that this is what FME I think has traditionally been so competitively powerful in the market. I mean, I know they're trying to position themselves now in a very more mainstream way, and that may actually be very helpful for you guys as well. But that geospatial element has got to be, I mean, it probably was a game changer to a certain degree.
By all means. So like to touch on what Chad was saying, we have this field to finish process that we had to implement throughout the whole organization. So basically from data collected in the field all the way to a deliverable to a client would take hours, right? So with the process, I think now maybe 5 seconds?
Sure.
I mean,
Yeah, they upload their data, put in a few params, and it'll export a style drawing, and so they always standardize. They're always the same throughout all offices, and then once they process the data, it's imported into a database, so we have all that historical data as well moving forward.
Yeah, so I mean, talk a little bit about T. Baker Smith and just the kind of the business itself, and as opposed to just the whiz bang stuff. I mean, this is a really interesting business that it's got quite a nice footprint down in
110 years
down the Gulf.
yes, right? Yeah, 110 plus years serving engineering, environmental, construction, geophysical. So we kind of do a little bit of everything. We're in different markets, so we're not focused on particularly, let's say, one market alone. So we're able to be agile, and whenever certain events might happen in one market, well, guess what? We still have all these other markets, right? And we're fortunate, at least in our group, that the owner CEO Kenny Smith, he's given us the autonomy to do a lot of the R&D and the technical stuff to get us ahead of our competitors. But it's that leeway that we have in order to explore and go find stuff and build cool things, right? So
yeah, and ultimately that's what it's all about, right?
And that's what drives it, correct?
Yeah,
yeah.
It's great.
Yeah.
So you've come all the way to Bonn, Germany. Did you? I mean, tell me a little bit of what you get out of an event like this.
I'll go first.
Yeah.
Well, for this one, we did present on the Trimble field of finish, and then we presented on the Blue Harbor. But also as well, I mean, I've been to we went in 14, but we also went to some of the world tours, and I always bring something home from it.
Yep.
I mean, one of the big ones I think was in DC, and I was working on a process before the event for someone processing oyster data when they're in the field getting bottom types, and they were doing all this manually. Basically, they would get a bottom type, and it'd be like a number like 1, 2, 3, 4 to kind of like map out an oyster habitat. So they would bring all this data into CAD, and like somebody would be manually trying to draw this stuff. And one of the presentations was doing something, I guess, it's similar with data. And one of the transformers that they were talking about, it was like right whenever they said it, me and John looked at each other and was like, so I actually
the transformers are.
It was just this one transformer that helped. It was the Veroni diagram.
Yeah, the Veroni.
So I had my laptop, so I started working on that process that night, and I pretty much got it working. So when I got home, got back to the office, I just kind of wrapped it up and made it, made all the exports come out, and I even took a step further, way to write out the acreages based on the type, and they've been using that process since. And it like a process like that, it might have took a drafter like on a big project a week. And this process, they upload the data, the XYZ being the bottom type, in their survey area, and it'll create this report in the drawing in 5 to 10 seconds.
Yeah.
And it's still
incredible
used to this day.
Yeah.
So every time I go to these conferences, there's a few of them here. It brings little ideas or talking with people, and then we go back and implement, and it just saves us money, and time and money.
Yeah.
So,
that's
what I get out of it.
I think it's nice to be back in live face-to-face conferences as well, because you do get that kind of organic interaction. Having a
we even help some people
coffee
out. Some of the ones that was in our
I'm sure there are a lot of people who want to talk to you guys.
Well, we talked with a few. They were doing things similar, and John and I talked to them, and they kind of gave them some ideas and gave them my contact info and told them to keep in touch if they can make it work.
Well, and I got to believe Don and Dale are pretty happy to have you back here.
We're happy to be here.
Yeah.
I mean, like Chad was saying, to touch on that, really the collaboration, right? So somebody has a question, but the question is actually how they're doing it, which actually gives you ideas. Mm-hmm. Right? So it's like you kind of take a step back and say, okay, how would I do that? And you try to, answer whatnot, but then whenever you really truly think about it, they'll have an answer for you to kind of show you how they're doing it, which is very interesting, right? So there's not one right solution or way to do it, especially with FME. Right.
It's funny you say that, because somebody earlier that we interviewed said the same thing, that you can give 20 people in here the same problem.
They get the same output, but
and they'll give you 20 different solutions, and they'll all be right.
That's correct.
In their own way. And so there's all kinds of ways to leverage the transformers.
Correct.
No, it's very interesting. So what gets you excited about where we are in the world today? I mean, there's so much happening. You've got data coming in now. You've got technology coming in. We've got AI coming in. I mean, tell me what gets you excited about kind of where you're headed.
I mean, really, the distributed architecture. We're just recently in the FME remote engine, and as far as deploying basically engines directly closer to your data stores to speed up performance. So that's very exciting, right? As far as all the ChatGPT connectors, the AI approach that they're using, that's exciting from crunching data standpoint or modeling or anything else like that to get quick, sharp answers, right? So that's kind of what makes me excited. I guess. How are we gonna do this, and what can we do? What's our? We don't have. It's like endless possibilities, right? So.
Yeah, it's great. So tell me a little bit about what you're looking at in the future. I mean, what are some of the projects that you're working on that are kind of
with us, a lot of the projects now, like you were saying about how things used to be. A lot of times it was just like a deliverable map or something to a client, but like these days, like it's more. It could be shape files, GDB files. That's to a client standard. So I've been having to work a lot more on projects when they come in, looking at scope of works, going through the deliverables, and then I'll create processes, which can be from start to finish. It could require like a field code library for the field so they collect the right data, and then I'll create a workspace, because I usually do these on my own. I won't push them to server because I'm doing processing, and I'll make the process to process that field data to map it out to whatever the project deliverable is for the client spec. So that's been happening a lot more, and I like messing with data so that it's just getting more and more. I got emails while I was here. I got projects waiting for me to process. So,
that's good.
So and with FME, it just makes it a lot faster, because I mean I could do it in other ways. It would just take a lot longer to do. And some of these projects, once I have this process built, it's ready. So it's just a matter of another survey, more data, bringing it in, doing my QC. So I got QC procedures, in there with the workspace. Write it out, and then I'll check it, in whether it's a GDB file or something. I'll check it, make sure all my data's in there, and then able to get those projects out in a fast time. And a lot of these jobs are lump sum jobs, so the faster we get them out, the more profitable.
Right.
So that's where John Paul and I come in. So a lot of these processes will be talking about the field to finish, or our GIS, the way the GIS extracts and makes these base maps for the for the mapping. All this saves time for the company. So that's one thing. Like like he was saying, our boss Kenny Smith, the owner of the company, he realizes that, and he lets us if we ask them about things, or like say we get an FME, or when John got FME, they let us do these things because they see the value of it, So so it just keeps more and more as these submittals get a little bit more complex. So you having a software like this it's just a good tool to have.
Yeah.
Sure.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Well done. I don't know how long it took you guys to get here, but
about 14, 15.
14, 15.
Yeah, I think door to door 17 hours. It was a spell.
Yep.
Going back will be a little bit more.
Yeah.
Which
Right.
I don't,
It's worth it though.
Yes.
Like I said, I've got a lot of it.
We've had a great time, and it's always good to catch up with people who are really kind of
it really is
smart, kind of know where they're going, and leveraging technology. And I always like to see, long-standing traditional companies really kind of, take technology and put it to a competitive use.
You don't see that too often.
You know, there are a lot of companies that don't last that long for a reason.
Right.
Correct, yeah.
You know, they
Right.
can't see the train coming down the
Yeah.
tracks.
Yeah.
It sounds like you guys are on top of it. That's great.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Well, thanks very much for
Yeah,
swinging
thank
by.
you.
It's
Oh,
been a pleasure.
appreciate it.
Yeah,
Always
thank you
nice
for the
to talk to
opportunity.
some folks back in the States.
Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
Safe travels back, and hopefully we'll catch up at another FME event soon.
For definitely.
Sounds
yes.
good.
All right, great.
Yes.
Thanks.
Awesome.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you.